Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Sisters Hour. We are still joined by Salahuddin, men's fashion guru, but our next guest is a passionate mental health activist and spoken word poet who uses her talent to break the stigma attached to mental health.
That's right, mental health affects so many of us. In fact, 1 in 4 of us in the UK will experience a mental health issue in our lifetime. Khadija Abdul Hamid uses spoken word to reach out to the masses and to show everyone that it's okay to experience mental health problems, and instead of hiding it under the carpet, we should instead be speaking about it and embracing them. Here is a quick clip from Khadija's latest video on mental health.
Because it isn't enough that depression is a stigma and I had to deal with it, but it's also a taboo in my culture and as a Muslim. Now I'm on a mission to help others and use what used to be my weakness to strengthen millions. Mental health is a real thing. So dear depression, I accept your challenge. It's me against you in this world of mental rejection. Yours sincerely, Khadija Abdul Hamid.
Well, there you go. That's some work by Khadija, and it is a pleasure to say that Khadija is here with us in the studio. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Khadija.
Khadija, we were both earlier on watching even more of your work, and we were just both wondering, where did your passion come from for sort of delving into this area and helping to tackle the issue?
Yeah, oh wow, okay. So basically, I'm 26, so around 11 years ago when I was 15, I went through depression while I was in high school. And then I think it kind of just stemmed from that, to be honest with you, because while I was, at the time I didn't know I kind of had depression. I was sent to a counsellor from my high school who kind of diagnosed me and said, I see the symptoms you have is depression. I had no idea what it was. She had to tell me. How long
did you have the depression for?
So I had it from year 10 to 11, so for around 1 year I would say I had it for. It started mid-year 10. Mid-year 10 and then up to year 11, up to 11, yeah.
It's a tough thing to have at that age as well, isn't it? Because you're in that routine of school and you don't feel...
And I think it's the kind of age where when you're around 15, 16, you're trying to find who you are as a person. And
there's a lot of pressure around you, isn't there? Because that's when your GCSEs are happening as well at that particular time.
Exactly, yeah.
You feel like your mind needs to be sort of
focused,
on that,
and it really isn't, It's great that you mentioned about the GCSE because, it really affected my GCSEs. I ended up just passing my English GCSE and failed everything else, which, it really does affect you a lot.
Yeah, and Khadija, in your opinion, why is it important to talk about mental health issues? Why should we be having these discussions?
I think it's really important. The reason I believe that it's important is because so many people go on, especially Muslims, silent about the issue and they don't talk to anyone, because every time they try to speak about it, you either get people in the Muslim community telling you it's a jinn sort of thing, or you just need some fresh air, go outside. No one really understands is more science to it. They don't really get it. So I feel like it's really important, and when people talk about it, such as myself, it gives hope to other Muslims, like, okay, if she's talking about it, therefore I can talk about it and I can get some help with it.
Especially through the medium of creativity, it just hits people in a better way instead of having the conversation. But I'll just ask all of you now, why do you think there is this stigma attached to it? Why specifically in the Muslim community?
I think it's with every community.
I agree,
But I do think there's a feeling going around that if you're, you're not grateful enough, or you're not praying enough, or you're not sort of happy with God's will enough. So I think people confuse that with legitimate, like there's a lot of people who legitimately feel depression, and something which is not very talked about. And even Prophet ﷺ, arguably at some points of his life, especially during the early stages of revelation, there's an element of some of him and Sahaba going through some sort of depression, and that's it's very normal to have depression, and it's just about how it's dealt with. If it's dealt with early, if it's dealt with the right support and help, then of course it makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned earlier that it's 1 in 4 of us in our lifetime. So that's 1 of us out of the 4 of us right now will experience a form of mental health. And that's a very high number, which is why it's so important to be having this dialogue and to speak about the issue of mental health. Now, Salahuddin, why do you think, in your opinion, that we've touched on how mental health is a stigma, but why do you think it's important to talk about it?
Because then you realize when you keep silent about it, sometimes you think you're the only person who's going through it. And when you talk about it, you actually give the courage for people to come and say, actually, that's what I've been feeling like, or that's how I feel like. And then you empower a lot of people who are going through the same thing. And it's very important, because sometimes you're all going through certain things and you think that human beings, tend to get into this sort of thing that, I must be weak if you feel like you're only feeling it, but then you feel strong when you actually realize actually a lot of people go through this, and you're not the only one, and you create those support networks. And that's then, from what I understand from people who've talked about mental health, those support networks are then what encourage you to be able to deal with it better.
It's just that community support that people need.
And actually, on the topic of community support, contrary to traditional Islamic practices, there has been a new form of research conducted by Leeds University that asserts that Muslims reaching out to Islamic practices can help them with overcoming mental health issues. Let's take a look.
And there was one point where I actually felt quite low in myself, extremely low. I thought maybe Allah has left me.
Touchstone is a voluntary sector organisation that works with health and well-being. A lot of our projects are BME specific projects. We are certainly a BME focused organisation. That's why we were asked to be part of IAPT, which is improving access to psychological therapies. So that's primary care mental health service, working with depression and anxiety. We became aware of Ghazala Mir's work a few years ago, and we asked her to come and present to the team to share the findings of her research.
We started a project to look at how mental health services might pay more attention to the needs of people from Muslim backgrounds in terms of adapting the therapies that are on offer. And the reason that we did that is because nationally there's guidance to say that culturally appropriate therapies, there's evidence-based to show that they're more effective, and we know that in Muslim communities they can have quicker results.
So what we're talking about here is a depression protocol that is evidence-based, called behavioural activation. And what's happened is that it's been adapted to suit the needs of Muslim clients.
So behaviour activation is about addressing those behaviours that you've perhaps stopped doing as much of, things that are meaningful to you or just get you out and about, and bringing those steadily back into your life in a manageable way. Now, what's so brilliant about the behaviour activation for Muslim communities is that it very much links in with people's belief systems and their values.
Over the last couple of years, I went through quite a difficult patch in my life, and I lost a very close member of my family, and it made me have to rethink the way I lived my life. I felt that, that I didn't have, I thought maybe Allah has left me, and I was upset because I thought I couldn't understand why I was feeling so down. I'd never been that type of person to be as down as I had got.
We produced a manual for therapists which showed them the kind of things that they needed to be aware of with Muslim clients, the kind of issues that might crop up, and then set out sessions for therapy, how that could be delivered. It was based on an existing manual for behavioural activation that we adapted for Muslim clients. Alongside that, we also produced this self-help booklet, which wasn't part of our original plan. Practitioners felt really empowered by the fact that they could have access to religious teachings that would be helpful to clients. So we produced this for clients, but also for therapists to actually understand a bit more about how religion could be helpful to people with depression.
So when I picked up the booklet, I started to begin the reading, and on the first page it said, dealing with difficult events in life. It goes on to say, everyone experiences testing times in life, and we may feel sad when this happens. Many of the prophets of God experienced such tests. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for example, grieved the loss of his son Ibrahim. Then he wept more, he said. The eyes are shedding tears and the heart is grieved, and we will not say except what pleases our Lord. O Ibrahim, indeed we are grieved by your separation. This hadith shows that even people with strong faith can feel extremely sad when such events happen. It does not mean that they have failed to turn to God enough to deal with their difficulties.
When somebody chooses to look into their religion as well as other parts of their life as part of their depression treatment, they found it more useful than having the standardised behavioural activation that was on offer.
I think in general people have tended to link back in with their faith more, and that has tended to mean becoming more observant or practicing.
Through this treatment, I've actually been able to rebuild my confidence and my self-esteem. I've gone on to look for new employment, and I am more confident with my own family members as well.
Well, fascinating research there. Do come back after the break, where we'll be hearing one young man's story about schizophrenia. Stay tuned, we'll see you then. Assalamu alaikum.